everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sophie and I would love it if you click that big red subscribe button down below. I talk about language learning a lot, I make travel videos, and I'm currently studying abroad in Lyon in France, so I make a lot of videos about that as well. So if you are interested in any of those types of videos, then definitely make sure to click that big red subscribe button down below and turn on that notification bell as well so that you never miss a video. So this video is going to be a very exciting one, and I know that I say that a lot, but I really do mean it, as it's going to be the first collab that I am ever filming on my channel, and it's with the lovely Sarah, and we filmed a video over on Sarah's channel as well, so I will link that down below in the description box, and I'll pin it in the comment section as well so that you can go watch that video as well. But yeah, Sarah and I have both spent some time studying languages at home in the UK and abroad. So I thought for this video it would be useful to give some of the positives and negatives to studying a language abroad, as I thought that maybe some of you would be wondering whether you need to go abroad to learn a language or whether you can just learn it from home, or whether you should go abroad to learn a language or not. So hopefully this video will help you all in some way, and yeah, I'll let Sarah introduce herself now.
Hello everyone, and thanks so much to Sophie for letting me be on her channel. My name is Sarah and I study German and Italian as well as European studies at the University of Bath, and like Sophie I am also currently on my year abroad, but I've been at home for 4 months. However, before that I did manage to spend 3.5 months living in Italy and doing an internship there, and I'm currently just about to begin a Erasmus semester in Germany at Freie Universität Berlin, and my YouTube channel is all about this whole process really. At the moment I document things like my year abroad right now and language learning and travel in general. So I would say for me, the #1 pro of going abroad is that you just experience so many things that you wouldn't otherwise experience at home, and you have all of these experiences often in a foreign language and also in a completely different culture to what you're used to. And because there are just so many different things that you are experiencing when you're abroad, it really does put you out of your comfort zone, and therefore it leads to increased confidence. And you know, if you need to deal with a load of bureaucracy abroad, then it just makes everything that's similar at home just feel so much easier, because it's just feels so much more familiar at home compared to abroad. So yeah, if you can handle something abroad, then you can certainly handle it at home, surely.
So obviously one of the big advantages of going abroad to learn a language is that you are going to be constantly immersed in this language. Even if you aren't actively speaking the language, you're going to be passively consuming it and learning the language that way. For example, if you are just walking down the street, you're going to be overhearing people speaking in that language, and we do learn a lot from just listening to stuff by ear as well. A big part of language learning isn't just actively learning the language, it is also just passively consuming the language. That's how you will most likely improve your listening skills and your reading skills, and the more that you hear certain words, the better that you're going to be able to memorize them and learn them. So yeah, being constantly immersed in the language is obviously a big advantage.
Also, in a similar kind of vein to the idea of living 24/7 in a completely different language and culture, is that because of this you will probably also have a different routine to what you would normally have when you're just at home in your home country doing normal things that you would do at home. So if this is just for a few days or a few weeks or a few months or however long you're fortunate enough to live abroad for, then it will certainly reveal to you new things about yourself which perhaps you didn't realise, whether this is learning new languages, how you like to handle social situations, how you interact with people, stuff like that. So yeah, you can just learn so many new things about yourself just by spending a bit of time out of routine and in a completely different environment. And this is done really, really well abroad.
So another big advantage is that often you will find yourself in situations where you have no choice but to speak in that language. Now, I know that may sound really daunting and scary, but honestly it is a good thing, and hear me out, just let me explain. So as a language learner, I know that starting conversations in another language, especially if it's the first time that I am talking to somebody in that language, can just be really daunting and really hard to, you know, get that confidence to speak in that language. But once I speak in that language, I become more confident speaking it, and the more and more that I speak it, the more that I improve. So being put in situations where you have no choice but to speak that language could be that little boost that you need to start speaking in that language. And once you've done it, you'll realise that it's not so bad. No one's gonna laugh at you if you make a mistake. It's normal, it's not so scary, and you can do it again more often and get more confident and improve.
Of course, because of modern technology these days and how most people do have access to good internet, it is possible to meet people from other countries and cultures online. However, nothing quite meets good old-fashioned face-to-face meeting up, and you will definitely have the opportunity to do this. The longer you live abroad, the more times you'll be able to meet people, of course, when you're abroad, people who live there, local people. So yeah, I would say that once you have made those friendships and connections, of course, if they are really good connections, then you will stay in touch for years and years to come, and that means that you have a tandem partner for life really, as well as, you know, a place to stay should you come back there.
Okay, so this next pro is a bit of an obvious one and doesn't actually help you in your language learning journey at all, but I feel like I couldn't not mention it, and it is that you're literally traveling whilst you're learning the language, right? You are in this new place and there's all these new areas for you to discover. There might be cool day trips that you can go on. When you're not actively learning the language, and when you've not got class or whatever, you can go out and you can explore, and you are literally kind of on holiday whilst you're learning at the same time.
So of course, through going abroad and through meeting local friends, you will be able to learn so many things about the language and culture of the country which you're in, which you could never really learn in the same way at all, just merely from a textbook or in a lecture or however you usually learn your languages at home. You can learn so much about the local dialect, for example, and how native speakers speak, the kinds of idioms and fillers and slang they use, and it's just such an authentic way to learn all of this and to learn how to truly speak like a native, which is not impossible to do online, but it's really not the same, and it's just so much harder to do when you're not surrounded by the language and culture 24/7 like you would be if you went abroad. And of course, like I've just hinted at, the easiest way to learn a foreign language is in its political, social and cultural context in which it's spoken, and that's abroad, wherever the language is spoken abroad. So yeah, that is really the most authentic and easiest way, and perhaps the most motivating way as well, to reach fluency in a language.
Now, an obvious con to going abroad to learn a language, and one which may be a big reason in which many people decide to learn a language at home, is obviously the cost of going abroad. Obviously you need to pay for flights, maybe visas, maybe vaccinations, depending on which country you're going to. You've got all these things to factor in. Maybe certain countries are more expensive as well, whereas you could pay a lot less to do an online course or take a course at a language school wherever in the world you currently are, or to, I don't know, buy a set of textbooks and teach yourself the language. Obviously there are ways of learning a language a lot cheaper without going abroad, so yeah, that's one thing to think about.
So this first con which I'm going to talk about, I guess, is something which has only become apparent during the past few months when COVID has been a thing, and that is the potential inability to travel back to your home country should an emergency situation such as a lockdown arise. I did kind of fear this a bit when I was in Italy and the cases started to rise again. I was there in autumn of 2020, so that was when the sort of second wave came along. And yeah, it did kind of add to my anxiety, I guess, of being in an unfamiliar situation, not knowing if and when I would be able to travel back should I decide to stay for a bit longer and not just book a flight straight away when I still could go back. So yeah, this, I guess, only does apply to crises, I guess, like COVID, but it's definitely something that shouldn't be ignored. And of course, this whole thing is very topical. We live in such a world of uncertainty at the moment, and that definitely does extend to living abroad.
So one of the cons is that you may need to get a visa. Now, I know that doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world, because obviously people have been getting visas for years, so getting visas, you know, it is doable. You can get a visa to go learn a language abroad. In fact, actually, student visas are some of the most easiest visas to obtain, and you don't always have to have a place at a university to get a student visa. You can sometimes, I guess it depends on the country, but often you can get a visa for just going to a language school. So yeah, it could actually be a way, actually, in a sense, it could be an advantage. It could be a way for you to get a visa to go visit a country that otherwise would be a lot harder for you to visit. But obviously still getting a visa can be a bit of a disadvantage, especially if it's just after immigration laws have changed, as I found out trying to move to France to study abroad just within a week after Brexit. I ended up actually having to change my flight because I wasn't able to get my visa in time, and then having to pay out extra money to change my flight.
As great as making friends abroad is, if you do make friends abroad, then you're going to have to get used to not being able to see them every day like you otherwise would have been able to had you just stayed living forever in the place where you made your friends when you were living abroad. So yeah, you do have to get used to having friends who live across the world, and that can be hard sometimes, especially when you've made really good friends. But yeah, it's just a fact of life, I guess, a fact of modern life, that you do make connections with people who live basically everywhere, and you can't always see them so easily.
And another con is obviously the added stress that comes with going or moving abroad, and the homesickness if you are spending a long time abroad. These are all things that you wouldn't have to worry about if you learn a language at home. Now, I know often we think that going abroad is amazing, but you know, there is stress that can create, whether it's problems with visas, problems maybe your flight gets delayed, or you miss a flight, a train, or yeah, there's lots of just added stress. Maybe you need to get something sorted out in that country, but no one can understand you, and you can't find someone who can speak English. There's all that added stress that you wouldn't have to experience if you just learned the language at home. But in a way, all of this added stress can also be like an advantage, because you can grow as a person from all of that.
So I'm sure a lot of us, when we have been learning a new language, have had that initial feeling of keenness and wanting to go out there straight away to practice our language, even if we can only speak a few words or phrases. But if you do go out before you can keep up a conversation really, then it can be easy to get a bit demoralized, especially when you think you're saying something right and perhaps it's not quite right, or perhaps your pronunciation isn't quite as good as you thought it was. Sometimes if you do go out earlier than when you have reached proficiency and being able to handle everyday situations and things like that, sometimes people just lose patience, I guess, the people who you're trying to communicate with abroad, and they could just be speaking back to you in English. And I have been there, and it can be, yeah, pretty demoralizing if you have put a lot of work into learning a language, but you still, I don't know, maybe social anxiety is stopping you from talking to them as well as you can do in the language that you're learning, and yeah, the situation just ends up that they're speaking to you in English. So yeah, if you go out too early, or perhaps you're not very confident yet, then this situation could occur.
So the next con is that people may often talk to you in English when you are trying to practice your target language with them, and obviously that can be very disheartening and very annoying when you've spent all of this, you know, money and time trying to get visas or whatever to go to that country and learn that language, and somebody is speaking back to you in English. Also, this can be very disheartening because it can give you the impression that you're not very good at that language, and that's maybe why they're speaking to you in English, because they're like, oh, I can't understand you, I just speak to you in English. But don't get disheartened. Remember that it may be for other reasons as well. It could be just that they think that they are doing you a favour and they don't realise that you are trying to learn this language. So they're just trying to make it clear that they speak English and that you can speak English, you know, if you need to or want to. Or it could also just be because they want to practice their English.
Another issue, I suppose, which could arise when you're going abroad, quite in the early stages of you learning a language, is that you could pick up dialects or slang which you don't realise are dialects or slang, and then, I don't know, travel to another part of the country and use these words and have them not understand you, or perhaps even say a few of these words and phrases that you have learnt that make you feel like you're speaking like a native speaker, but on the right sort of formal register for an exam, and then end up speaking them in an exam. So yeah, I would say definitely try and learn the basics of the sort of standard form of the language before you do go abroad, and actively try and learn dialects and slang, as good as that is to sound authentic and like a native speaker. Yeah, maybe that's not the best thing to do at first.
Okay, so in conclusion, you do not need to go abroad to learn a language. It's not the only way to learn a language. You can learn a language at home, you can take online lessons, you can find online tandem partners, and many people have learned languages at home. However, if you do go abroad to learn a language, you most likely will pick it up a lot more faster. So, if you are in the position to learn a language abroad and it is something that you would really be interested in doing, I definitely highly recommend it. And yeah, I'm sure Sarah would agree with me on this one. So yeah, that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it useful. Definitely give it a big thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to both mine and Sarah's channel, and check out the video that we did on Sarah's channel as well. I'll link it down below in the description box, and I'll pin it in the comments section as well. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!